Hello, friends. This is Sukhwant Singh. It is said too much of anything is bad. Once there was a man who was full of vices. He had very few virtues. He was involved in all the worldly pleasures. You name it, and he had it. Whether it was drinking, or whether it was womanizing, or whether it was uh, following the path of being a fraud, or demeaning his people around him, whatever vices you can think of, he was involved in all of them. He was engrossed in them. His friends, his parents, his relatives, they used to advise him to follow the right path, but he never heeded to them. One day it is said that he went to listen to a great master. People had very little hope that this meeting with the master will have an impact, but then destiny had something else in store for this man. He went to that master, he heard his sermon, and as luck would have it, master's impression fell on him and he became a changed person. It is said that when a person has to change, it may not take much time. It happens within fractions of seconds. And that great moment had taken place in this man's life. After listening to the sermon of the master, he said, I am going to give up upon all these worldly pleasures and I want to become a saint. Now, again, at this point of his decision, his friends, his relatives were totally surprised and they advised him not to do so. They said, well, you won't be able to keep to this promise of changing yourself so extremely. But this man said, no, I am going to change. And what happened? He kept to his promise and he not only changed himself to following all the good things, but he went to the other extreme. Now, what do I mean by other extreme? By saying other extreme means he went along with other so-called saints. And when the saints used to follow certain difficulties, he tried to do something more. For example, if on a hot day the saints used to move around in the cities and then go out and sit under the tree's shade, this man of ours decided not to sit under the shade even. He didn't take the pleasure of the shade. He sat under the sun. People advised him not to do so, but he said, no, I'm going to be like this. Similarly, on a cold night, when other saints who were there with him in the group used to sleep under the quilts or used to light up fire for their warmthness, he decided no, he will neither take the quilt nor warm clothes nor even sit near the fire to get its warmth. And instead, he used to lie under the sky and take on the cold as much as it fell upon him. So he went to these extremes. Soon what happened? The nature had its toil on him. He started. Now, another thing which is coming to my mind is these saints used to survive by eating meal only once a day and once in 24 hours. But this man of ours went to another extreme. And this point also, instead of eating once in 24 hours, he used to eat once in 2 or 3 days, and soon developed the practice of eating only once in a week. Now, all these things had toil on his physical body. Before meeting the master, he was hale and hearty, and he was carrying good health, but then he lost his health. He became almost a skeleton kind of a person, was not able to move around. His energy had gone. Soon the master learned about this man's present condition, and he decided to go to his place. The master walked down to his home, knocked the door, and with great difficulty the man opened the door and recognized the master, and fell at his feet and said, "What brings you to my home?" Now the master knew few things about this man's past. He said, "Before changing your mind, before changing your heart and becoming a saint, I heard that you were a very good player of rebab." And the man said, "Yes, I used to play it, and people used to like and appreciate it." Now the master asked him, "How did you keep your rebab tuned? The strings that were there in the rebab, how did you keep them tuned? Did you keep them loose?" And the man said, "No, if we keep them loose, we won't be able to play the music. They'll be too loose to create any sound." And then the master said, "Did you tighten them very much?" And again he said, "No, it's not possible. If we tighten them, the moment we'll try to play, they will break." And then the man said, "In order to take out good music from the instrument, we have to keep them neither very tightened nor very loose." And the master again looked at him and said, "This is what you have to adopt in your life to follow it well, to make it successful. You cannot go to the other extreme and torture your body. By giving up on, he said, we don't say give up on your worldly pleasures in order to follow the path of God. What is advised is that you should not give your life, give your peace of mind in accumulating things. The pleasures, the little pleasures that we have for ourselves in our lives are essential, but we should not just live for them. We just should not go ahead and constructing one house after the other. One small house is good enough to survive. A simple car is good enough to drive around. But what happens? We go one after the other. After building up one house, we want another house. After building up second house, we feel like we should have a third house also. Similarly, if we have one car in which we are very comfortable, people around us keep telling, "Why don't you go for a better car? Why don't you go for another car?" And then we keep on adding one after the other these things in our life and make ourselves more and more troubled. At the same time, the master was trying to explain to the man that don't go to the extremes. If you have the car, it's not necessary that if you are becoming a godly man, you should give up on your car and start riding a bicycle, or if you have a bicycle, you should give it up and start walking instead. No, that's not the way to go about. Be reasonable to yourself and do not be greedy. If we are able to make a balance of life, I think we all can bring out music, beautiful music that will be soothing and pleasing to hear by people around us and by people who will be there after us. Thank you so much. If you have liked it, please leave your comments. And in case you haven't shared this particular channel, please, if you like, you can share it and subscribe it. Thank you so much for watching.